Okay, let's get into this. Kesser and Steen, they're trying something really interesting. Growing potatoes, but in seaweed.
Yeah, right on their terrace, apparently. It's a very hands-on experiment we're diving into today.
Definitely hands-on. And their whole angle seems to be about finding practical solutions, using what's available to grow food.
Which is fascinating because the first thing I imagine that pops into most people's heads is salt, right? Seaweed means salt.
Absolutely. That's the immediate question. But Kesser and Steen, they seem to have thought about this quite a bit.
They point out there are loads of different seaweed types. What, like 35 edible ones just in Denmark?
Something like that. And crucially, the sea itself doesn't have the same salt level everywhere.
Right. They mentioned it's about 5% where they are, maybe 8% in other places.
Yeah, and that's actually much lower than the salt concentration in us, in our bodies.
And interestingly, they even question whether you need to wash the seaweed.
Which goes against the grain a bit, doesn't it? But they bring up this point about some places in Asia.
Oh, yeah.
Where they apparently add sea salt to garden fertilizer. On purpose.
Huh. Well, that definitely makes you pause and reconsider the whole salt issue. It's not automatically bad, perhaps.
Exactly. And then there's the seaweed itself. It washes up on beaches all the time, often seen as just messy, right? Annoying waste.
Definitely. Something councils have to clear away.
But Kesser and Steen are seeing it differently, as like a free resource for growing stuff. You just need a bit of effort to collect it.
Turning waste into food potential. Well, it's resourceful.
It really is. And it makes you think about what else we just overlook,
True. And their collection method is important too, isn't it? How they go about getting the seaweed.
Yes, very. They're quite clear. They only take what the sea has already dumped on the shore.
So stuff that's already detached, washed up, naturally, often after rain, they said.
It addresses that potential concern about, damaging the marine environment by harvesting living plants.
That's a key distinction. It's about using what's truly surplus, in a way.
They even found it funny trying to explain this to people from the city.
Oh, really? Like a disconnect?
Yeah, like the understanding of those natural cycles isn't always there if you don't live near the coast. Kind of an interesting observation.
It highlights that difference in perspective, definitely. What's just normal for one person is totally alien to another.
So yeah, the core of this deep dive is really following Kesser and Steen's journey. Sprouting the potatoes, planting them in seaweed, seeing what happens.
We'll touch on the science, sure, but the focus is very much on the practical side. The how-to and the what happens when.
And super important for you listening. This is ongoing. Things will change. They'll learn stuff.
Right. So you absolutely need to check the video notes that go with this. That's where the latest updates will be. It's an evolving story.
Okay, so where did this whole seaweed potato idea even come from? It wasn't just random.
No, apparently they got the idea from the old fishermen in their village.
Right. And this historical thing called stranderett.
Beach rights. Is that what it means?
Yeah, basically. An old right for people to collect things that washed ashore. Seaweed, eelgrass, even fishing gear that got lost.
Wow. So using seaweed like this is actually rooted in like local history and tradition.
Totally. It connects directly to how people use their local environment for centuries.
And they mention street names too.
Yeah, apparently there are still roads called Tungvej Seaweed Road, which really shows how important seaweed must have been.
That's a tangible link, isn't it? It makes the experiment feel less, random and more grounded.
Definitely grounded. Okay, let's talk potatoes. The seed potatoes. Kesser and Steen are quite specific about that term.
They make the point that technically, botanically, a seed comes from a flower.
Right. What we plant are tubers, those starchy bits.
They use the Danish term, don't they? Lægge kartoffel.
Yeah, laying potato. And they talk about prepping them in egg cartons, almost like tucking in babies. Sounds very careful.
Gentle. It really emphasizes their approach, doesn't it? That attention to detail, making sure they sprout well.
It contrasts quite strongly with, big-scale farming.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
Where they use machines, plant them deep in the soil, partly for frost protection, I suppose.
Exactly. Kesser and Steen are doing this on a home garden scale. It's different. They mentioned someone called Oma.
Ah, yes, like a grandmother figure.
Seems like it. Who apparently just knew that vegetables could sort of wake up even in the fridge. That kind of ingrained intuitive knowledge.
That practical, almost instinctual understanding versus the industrial approach. It's a fascinating contrast.
And it shows the different ways we can relate to growing food, I think.
For sure. And their resourcefulness extends to the starting material, too. They aren't picky about the size of the tubers.
Right. They said they're willing to use even tiny ones, like fingernail-sized.
Yeah, stuff that a commercial operation would probably just discard.
That really says something about their mindset. Let's try it, let's see what happens, challenge the norms.
It's pure experimentation, seeing potential everywhere.
Okay, so they've got these sprouted laying potatoes. What's next for the terrace setup? Containers.
Simple stuff. Buckets, basically.
Just regular buckets.
Seems like it, but the key thing is they need drainage holes. That's crucial.
All right, so the water doesn't just sit there. Got it. And then they fill these buckets with the seaweed. That's the growing medium.
And the why behind seaweed is pretty interesting. They talk about its mineral content.
Yeah, connects back to that Asia fertilizer point, maybe?
Yeah.
That has stuff plants need?
Exactly. Potassium, nitrogen, lots of trace minerals. The ocean is just packed with minerals.
They even mentioned NASA.
That NASA has documented all the minerals found in seawater. But Kesser and Steen are also quite realistic.
How so?
Well, they know that lab results from, say, Asia showing nutrient levels in seaweed might not perfectly match what happens in their buckets outside.
Oh, okay. So it's not like they expect a perfect translation from lab to terrace.
No, it's more like, let's use it, observe what happens, learn as we go. Very low-tech, very empirical, like those old fishermen relying on experience.
That makes sense. Theory is one thing, practice is another.
Precisely. Acknowledging the real-world complexity.
And they did do some homework, right? They didn't just throw everything together randomly.
No. They actually consulted a local plant nursery.
Ah, okay. About what?
Things like, how deep to plant the potatoes, the best timing for different varieties in their climate, and roughly when they might expect to harvest.
So they're mixing this unconventional seaweed idea with some standard gardening know-how.
Seems like a smart balance. Testing the new medium, but within a framework of established practice.
Okay, let's quickly touch on some potato basics, just to be clear, how the new potatoes actually grow.
Yeah, good point. Because it's easy to think they just grow on the original potato you planted.
But they don't, right?
No, the plant sends out roots, and it's on that root network that new swellings form. Those are the tubers, the new potatoes.
So the original mother potato provides the initial energy, but the harvest comes from the new root system.
Exactly. And understanding that, it apparently got Kesser thinking.
About what?
About maybe taking cuttings from potato plants, maybe even tomato plants, like you propagate other things.
Oh, interesting. Like, could you grow a new plant from a piece of stem or leaf? That's a whole other potential experiment.
Could be. It follows logically if you understand how the tubers form.
Okay, another common piece of potato advice. Crop rotation. Don't plant them in the same spot every year.
Right. The standard wisdom is rotate your crops to avoid depleting soil nutrients and building up diseases specific to potatoes.
But Kesser and Steen found this counterexample from Greenland.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. Apparently, in some areas there, they've grown potatoes successfully in the same plots for like 50 years.
50 years, wow.
Using only sheep manure as fertilizer.
Just sheep manure.
Seems so. Which suggests that maybe, under certain conditions, perhaps with the right kind of soil life, you can grow potatoes continuously.
So maybe the specific microbes in that soil, helped by the manure, are key. It challenges the standard advice.
It certainly opens up questions. Maybe something for Kesser and Steen to look into down the line, the soil biology aspect.
Definitely food for thought. And one last term they mentioned briefly, TPS.
True potato seeds.
Which are actual seeds from the flowers.
Correct. Not the tubers we plant, but tiny seeds produced by the potato flowers after pollination.
And what's the point of those?
Well, unlike tubers, which are clones of the parent plant, TPS carry genetic diversity. So you use them if you want to breed totally new potato varieties.
Okay. So that's more for, like, plant breeders, a longer-term, more advanced thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not quite the focus of their current hands-on seaweed trial.
Right. So wrapping this up, this deep dive has really been about watching Kesser and Steen start this quite unique experiment, potatoes in seaweed on the terrace.
Driven by curiosity, practicality, and using what's just there.
Yeah. And the key takeaway for you listening, I think, is seeing how they're kind of challenging normal gardening ideas.
Showing a really low-tech way you might be able to grow foods from something most people just ignore or see as waste.
It really prompts you to look around your own environment, doesn't it? What resources are just sitting there overlooked?
Could they be used differently? Unexpectedly.
It's about fostering that resourceful mindset, maybe.
I think so. Questioning assumptions about what's valuable.
So everyone, keep your nose on the trail, stay curious, And definitely check those video notes.
That's where you'll find out how the seaweed potatoes are actually doing. All the updates will be there.
Okay, let's get into this. Kesser and Steen, they're trying something really interesting.